Welcome, everybody. Thanks for being here tonight. We appreciate you spending some time with us and hopefully learning more about all the things that make Ohio Wesleyan great. So we always like to say the best thing about Ohio Wesleyan is the people, our students and our alumni. So we've invited several of our alums to join all of you tonight to help you get a perspective of what it's like to have the student experience, but then what that experience means in the years after college. So here in a moment, I'll turn it over to them, but I want to thank them and you for being here and spending some time with us. So once we do some introductions, we'll open it up to some questions. Feel free to speak up and ask questions. If you feel more comfortable putting it in the chat, then we can go about it that way as well. But we want this to be your time and your chance to ask some questions that are really meaningful to you. So, all right, so here we go. To our alums, I'll let them kind of go around the room and introduce themselves and help you get to know them better. So here we go.
I'll go first. Can everyone hear and see me? Okay, so my name's John Sotos. I grew up in Dublin, Ohio, and I graduated at Ohio Wesleyan in 2017. And currently I'm in dental school at Ohio State in my final year there. I did my freshman year of college at Miami University, and then I transferred to Ohio Wesleyan for sophomore through senior years. So if you guys have questions on like big school versus small school, like pros and cons about both, because I also competed at Miami too, and I can talk about pros and cons of like big school, small school, what I thought worked well for me, what didn't. So yeah, I'm happy to be here, and it's always fun to see people interested in OWU because it was the best 4 years of my life and met some of the best friends I have. We're lifelong friends. We actually just went to a wedding in Georgia last month for one of my college teammates, and it was like a reunion, and we haven't seen each other in 5 years. So yeah, happy to be here.
I can go next. Claire Everhart. I graduated in 2010. I ran the 1500, 800, and cross country. I majored in international studies, and I now work in Washington, D.C. for the U.S. International Development Finance Corporation. So if anyone's interested in international relations, also happy to talk to you about that. Kyle as well, I know, did that. And I married someone else that ran cross country and track as well, Sharif, on this call. So speaking of friendships and getting to know people, and Kyle Herman is one of my best friends, one of Sharif's best friends too. So you definitely make friends for life doing this.
Well, I can go next and split up this couple here. So I graduated in between Claire and Sharif in 2011. I can't believe that it's been 10 years. I'm originally from Stowe, Ohio. I studied international studies and politics and government, as Claire mentioned. And I also moved to DC and got involved in domestic politics there. Actually worked for the White House for the last couple of years of the Obama administration, and then ended up working where I am now for an international nonprofit that does pro-democracy programs all over the world, but I focus on programs in the Middle East. And when I was at Ohio Wesleyan, I ran cross country, and in track, I focused on mid-distance, especially the 800 with Sharif.
Great, and to finish up this friendship sandwich here, the long story short is I had an amazing experience at Ohio Wesleyan, really an unforgettable time there. The main things I was focusing on while I was there was getting a major in neuroscience. I did some student government with Kyle, actually, and running. I did all 4 years, cross country, indoor and outdoor track, where I focused on the 800 for track and field. Since Ohio Wesleyan, when I graduated in 2012, I've been pursuing graduate school. I recently completed a PhD in neuroscience, and now I'm a postdoctoral fellow at the National Institutes of Health here in Bethesda, Maryland, doing additional work on neuroscience and the connection between the brain and consciousness is my primary focus. So happy to talk to anyone who's interested in grad school, and also, well, I know many of us here can speak to this as well, but balancing academics and athletics. If both of those things are primary focuses for you, definitely was for me. You can do that at Ohio Wesleyan for sure.
I'll go next, slash almost last. My name is Cirrus. I graduated in 2020, and I was primarily a high jumper and did the 400, 200s occasionally. I grew up in Ashland, Ohio, and came to Ohio Wesleyan, where I got a degree in education with a minor in sociology. I teach kindergarten now over in Westerville, Ohio, and kind of work with as an equity coordinator for the Westerville district. So any teachers, hopefully in this group or in any group or any questions like that, Ohio Wesleyan's really popping for that as well. So.
And last and most definitely least, if we're speaking athletically, it is me. My name is Ahmed. I graduated in 2020. I was also a distance runner, as is like 99% of the alumni on this call. I ran cross country, and then I did steeplechase and 5Ks and all kinds of other smattering of anything above a 400 on the track. So I studied accounting and politics and government at Ohio Wesleyan. I was a double major. Currently, I work as an accountant for a public accounting firm. I do like international taxation consulting, which sounds super glamorous. You know, it maybe not be as glamorous as you might think, but it's pretty fun. I enjoy it, and yeah. So that's why. Oh, also, it's probably important. I commuted all 4 years at Ohio Wesleyan, so I drove 45 minutes to campus and back every single day, which is, you know, a fun experience. So if you're interested in the commuter lifestyle and you don't know if that's the right thing for you, you know, just throw any questions my way. I'd be happy to answer them. The reason why I chose Ohio Wesleyan, and it goes back to what Sharif was talking about earlier, is I felt that Ohio Wesleyan gave me the best opportunity I could have to participate in the things that I found interesting. And I thought it would put me in the best position to do whatever I ended up deciding to do after graduation, whether that was going to work, which is what I'm doing now, whether it was going on to grad school, you know, whether it was like research during undergrad. I knew that Ohio Wesleyan would put me in the best possible position because it has like those big school opportunities, but you're able to make connections that you could only make in a school that is like, you know, the size of Ohio Wesleyan. So that's why I chose to go to OWU.
I can jump in next because I also gave up a full ride to go to OWU from Denison, and I don't regret it. It was the best decision, and I had such an amazing 4 years. And the three main factors that swayed my decision: one, when I visited, and I visited a lot of schools. I think I visited 6 or 7 campuses, and Ohio Wesleyan had the warmest and friendliest atmosphere when I visited everywhere. And the second point would be I definitely felt that as well with the team and from coach. And then third was the really high percentage of diversity that OWU pursued. I came from a very small town in Pennsylvania. I think I knew like 3 non-white people before I came to Ohio Wesleyan. And when I came to OWU, I think that when I went there, it was like 20% international. And I think it's somewhere around there. And that was a huge reason that I chose to go there. And it just opened my whole world perspective. I met so many people from so many countries, so many states across the US that I had never met before. And I looked at this, I think about a year ago, and OWU is still really leading the conference in its diversity. So that was a really big factor for me as well.
I chose OWU because I wanted to be able to keep running without it feeling like it would be a job. I wanted to do it because of the sense of community that I felt I would get from being on the team. Like even just from visiting campus, Claire showed me around that visit. I got to meet the team members and the coaches. I could tell that they were interested in me and investing in me and my experience. Whereas I actually visited another school in the conference that had been really good and talked to their coach there, and he asked me was asking me about my times, and he basically told me like, oh, well, we might be able to do something with you in the 800, but we have enough 400 runners, and kind of like was dismissive. And so it was actually super vindicating when I got to run the 400 in some of our relays, and we ended up beating this team and dominating the conference, taking that away from that team. And so, that's part of why my experience at Ohio Wesleyan, like why I chose it, is because we have that sense of community, and I felt wanted there not only to run but to have all the academic experiences. Sharif and I got to do a travel learning project to China to study the water shortages and water pollutions there and how people were responding to it. And that really opened up my worldview and got me more involved in international relations.
You guys are so cool. Oh, John, go ahead.
So again, I had looked at Ohio Wesleyan out of high school, and it was a really tough decision for me. But I didn't, I realized I made a mistake toward the end of my freshman year. But what drew me back to Ohio Wesleyan was I missed the like connections I got to make in the classroom, and like with the small classroom size. That was really big for me. And even the academic rigor at Ohio Wesleyan, they really push you out of your comfort zone. But I didn't really value that. Like I was, we're all driven. We're, distance runners, track runners, field athletes. But it wasn't until like I got to dental school where some of the classes were a lot easier for me compared to other classmates that I really valued, and be like, wow, like Ohio Wesleyan did a really good job preparing me. And I also, like, on my visits, the team, they were also welcoming, and kind of like Claire was saying, like not everyone was like, cookie cutter from the same background. Like that was kind of the neat thing, was it was so diverse, but you wouldn't expect it to work, but it does so magically. And that's what drew me. Like I kind of came from like a bubble suburb where, everything's like nothing bad happens, all that stuff. But, you meet people from different backgrounds on all corners of the world and the United States. And that was really cool. And something I really valued. And then the coaches, they're really good at pushing you as athletes, but also understanding your people too, and students. And Ohio Wesleyan does a really good job of that. They understand, like, your classes, they're only scheduled 8 to 4. And that's when all athletic practices start, or essentially at 4, because they don't want overlap between classes and athletics. So that was really good, having that balance at Ohio Wesleyan. So.
I would also just back up on what John was saying about class sizes. I think that was something I didn't realize was so important until I got to Ohio Wesleyan, that being able to make so many connections, not just with other classmates so quickly, but also with professors. And professors become very crucial in the last few years, and job searching. And I've even kind of contacted a few of mine in pursuing further education. So I think it was just really cool to have the opportunity to connect with the adults on campus as well, because they're some of the smartest people in the world. And I would say as well, just I made more connections on my few visits to Ohio Wesleyan than I did to any other school, and was able to just continually talk to KB every week and just feel very invested in. And I think that that's really important, and something that carries through your experience at Ohio Wesleyan. You don't just show up and they're like, okay, you're here. But that feeling really kind of lasted even until now. I would say I just ran into you guys a few months ago, and that connection has kind of stayed there between the coaches and everybody that I met.
Of my options, Ohio Wesleyan was a real outlier in almost every dimension, geographically and size and so on. But the two main factors that drew me to Ohio Wesleyan ultimately was I was looking for a strong science curriculum, which it had, and I was looking for a D3 program that took itself very seriously, because I wanted to fulfill the potential of my athletic ability and really be pushing myself and try to excel. And I wanted to do both those things, and that's what Ohio Wesleyan offered me. I can offer sort of an insight there. We had, I think, I'm sure this has been replicated. I can only speak of the years I've been there. And I'm sure this has been replicated before and since. But we had a few classes of runners that were just really close and tight. From, they're represented really here, 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013. We had an awesome group of women and men who just became great friends and found, bound together through a collective mission to excel. In some cases where we overlapped in our academics, but also athletically. We were able to, among some of these athletes, get to the cross country national championship meet for the first time in like 30 years or so. So it's just those folks, we just connected immediately. And so much of the fun happens not just in practice, because some of the practice is not fun, but, going to the ice bath and then walking to the dining hall and then spending 2 hours at the dining hall and talking, it's just this great fun camaraderie, being on the bus together, heading to the meet, coming back from meet. There's just so much time to connect with each other. And these people ultimately become, your closest friends and are maintained for many years after.
Yeah, some of my best memories from Ohio Wesleyan were the walks back to Smith Dining Hall after practice to have the all-you-can-eat food there, and then even getting up on Sunday mornings for our long runs, and then crashing, basically taking over the dining hall afterwards, just for like the endless food and conversations.
Having a team, coming into like a small school like Ohio Wesleyan, it's definitely a blessing in disguise. Like you get there a week early, you get to, meet your group of friends before classes even start. And I imagine having a lot more virtual makes it even tougher. And that's just something you guys have, like a kind of a social outlet. And there are going to be some times where like at Ohio Wesleyan where classes are tough and, you'll have stressful weeks, but you'll show up to practice and you can just kind of like leave that baggage at the door, and your friends are your support system. And that's really important to have. And I've never come across like a bad teammate or someone not willing to help or like talk if you need someone to talk to. But that's definitely the biggest thing I loved about Ohio Wesleyan, was having that support system and culture, very close culture of the team.
You are in college. It's more rigorous. It should be more rigorous than high school. So it's going to be challenging, but it should be challenging. And I would say that the addition of doing a sport actually isn't taking away time that you would be spending studying. Instead, it requires you to focus your time that you have remaining to do the work that needs to be done academically. I think it's a little bit of, I think everyone who's done this might have had the same delusion I had, which is there would be like these 2 weeks where we'd be off, no training between cross country and track. And I imagined I was just going to have an academic heyday. I was going to just be studying for hours and hours and hours, that same time that I would be at practice and then the ice bath. It never happened. It just never came to fruition because you only have a certain bandwidth of attention and focus on those things. So actually it turned out that doing this sport was a great sort of correspondence and integrated well with the academic experience. It's going to push you some more. You're not going to have Saturday to study all day like maybe some people might want to. You'll be at a track meet or a cross country meet. But I think for most folks, it's a good balance you'll find there.
And in terms of like the academic rigor of the pre-dent, yeah, it is challenging at Ohio Wesleyan, but it's very doable. They have so many resources that you're able to take advantage of. You're going to have classmates doing it with you in all your classes outside of just people on the team. and so and then, like I said, when I got to dental school, I think I wouldn't have been as well prepared if I stayed at the big school I was at, and if I didn't compete in cross country and track, like Sharif said, like, you know, when I was injured, like, you did realize like how much time normal people have, like it's, you know, like, but competing, like, it allows you to kind of reset, recharge, and, you know, more efficiently study. Like, more time studying isn't always just better. And I really think being an athlete, studying pre-dentistry was very, very challenging, but very doable and manageable. And I've had, you know, nothing but success in dental school, and I think Ohio Wesleyan was the perfect fit for me. And I would highly recommend anyone interested in pre-dentistry, you know, look into Ohio Wesleyan. So.
I would say that like balancing your mental with whatever you have going on is really important. I think we all kind of talked about like the work-life balance of track, and like scheduling your time and being an athlete made you a much better student and probably just a much more focused, organized person because you had to be. But I would also say that I just really learned to take care of myself so much because I was an athlete and was wanting to do well by my teammates and wanting to perform and meet my own goals. So whether that was mental health, physical health, the training room, as we talked about, but also like asking for help from friends, asking for something I needed from the coaches, like some of those habits have carried very far, and just like being able to take care of myself and be the best version of myself.
And in that similar vein, I think I would love for all of you to go to Ohio Wesleyan. That is my strong recommendation. All of us had an amazing 4 years, but regardless of where you go, I really urge you to do cross country and track or do a sport, because I think it's really good to do things that are hard, and track and cross country are hard. And similar to what Cirrus was just saying, you take life lessons from that you apply everywhere in your life. And I think doing something really hard for several years is really going to set you up in life to succeed in anything that you do. A lot of folks will live their whole lives and never push themselves as hard as you already have in practice. And like, you definitely will if you go to Ohio Wesleyan. And that really, you take that with you the rest of your life.
You know, college is a incubation chamber for your development. And so the environment that you're about to go into will be the place where you begin to grow the roots of all the various dimensions of your toolkits that will facilitate everything you do socially and in your career moving forward. What Ohio Wesleyan offered me in my environment, my incubation chamber for those few years, it offered me a place to develop leadership skills, which has been invaluable to my experiences in the sciences, where there's a lot of team-based work and where you need to be a leader and help work with a team, people dictate that team. It offered me a lifelong passion for running and for physicality. You know, actually, this is not staged. Claire and I just came from doing a track workout, and the track workout we did was literally from the 800 workouts Coach Boy would give us. So we're still sticking with that, and it's just about finding, you know, finding the importance and value of being healthy and being active and physical. And then ultimately, it also gave me the toolkit, the academic toolkit that would allow me to sort of flourish and begin my graduate school career, where I could further develop those interests, those passions, and those abilities that I gained at Ohio Wesleyan. So those are the things that I gained. I've implemented all of those things, continue to implement those things today, and I have OWU and the experience I have there to thank for that.
I really like what Claire said about doing something that's hard, because when I was thinking about my answer to this question, I would say I just never really got nervous for anything else at Ohio Wesleyan, except for a relay, you know, finishing a relay or high jumping in front of a couple hundred people. I think that I just gained so much confidence and like grace under pressure that is just so valuable as a working adult. And I feel like that not a lot of people really have in my environment, and just as a teacher, and just like being loud and confident and being able to kind of speak to a lot of people in a room, because we could talk to anybody on the team. And, you know, we had such small class sizes. I had millions of discussions in all of my classes, and just really learned to kind of speak my mind and just be passionate, but also just to have a lot of confidence and not be afraid of challenges or afraid of big rooms or, you know, scary situations. So I think that that's something that I've realized more and more I've taken away from Ohio Wesleyan.
Bouncing off of what Cirrus was talking about, confidence immensely, but also like for me, I've never been I've been a very risk averse person. I think I still am. I'm an accountant, so it fits the bill. But Ohio Wesleyan helped me open my eyes to what opportunities are truly out there, right? Like I don't have to take a cookie cutter approach to my career or life in general. There are like spaces for me to carve out, you know, something that I would have deemed too risky in the past, but I now have the confidence to go and pursue those things in a manner I probably wouldn't have done so before. Like currently right now, I live in Chicago. I've lived in Columbus, Ohio my entire life, and I decided to move, you know, 6 hours away to Chicago. And I don't know that that was something I would have done earlier in my life. You know, in a career where I honestly like came in really not knowing anything. And having to learn so much just like on the job, and you know, like looking ahead as like where I see myself in 5 or 10 years, being able to map things out, and like map places I would like to, like where I would like to be personally, career wise, wherever. And you know, those were things I probably would have been too scared to do in the past, like these kinds of opportunities. But you know, Ohio Wesleyan and being a part of the track team and everything has given me the confidence, and opened my eyes to like the things that I'm able to accomplish.
Yeah, Ohio Wesleyan pushed me physically in sports, but also academically to do things that I never would have thought of, like having these international experiences, and also one of my friends at Ohio Wesleyan, who's actually a swimmer, he went to the Harvard Kennedy School to get his master's in public policy, straight out of Ohio Wesleyan, and which I didn't even like know was possible as a thing. But then I was actually, because he did that, I was sort of inspired, and I was able to go through the same program as well. And even today, though, the biggest experiences I have from Ohio Wesleyan are like the sense of community from running, and like the last time I visited Sharif and Claire, like basically the only thing we did was just go for our run together.
I think this is just as valuable for Coach Carlson and I as it is hopefully for our future bishops. So thank you. And I will say this, in this group, you know, we have, I think everyone here has been part of a team conference championship. We have individual conference champions. We have national qualifiers. We have All-Americans and a national champ right here. And above that, they're even better people. And they were exceptional teammates. And that's indicative. I mean, we could have, you know, these are some of my favorite folks, and there's so many others that could have been part of this and had, you know, shared very similar experiences. So, you know, but they're a great representation of who we are and who we want to continue to be for years to come. So thank you so much.